Welcome to the Reds Reviews podcast brought to you by PayPerHead.com. Right now there is a promo for $3 for up to 3 months, and that is a premium promo. It does include everything on the plate, and it's about that time, so let's get on with the Red Show. Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you? This is Red, and it's that time of the week. So the Rays and Dodgers are in the World Series after the Dodgers decided to make a legendary comeback. Right, 3-1 they were. 3-1 they were, and ended up coming back. So, you look at that in perspective, and you think the MLB is somewhat predictable. I didn't honestly see them coming back from that. I thought Atlanta would actually shut them out, but I guess it's better to have a team like that on the West Coast coming in and performing the way that they are. And right now it's tied up. It's 1-1. The game is this Friday. That will be the who takes the lead in the series. And I'm looking forward to it, honestly. I didn't really watch that much of the baseball. I watched a little bit of the Padres, as I mentioned before, which they ended up getting, way further than they have in a lot of years, and I'm happy with that. But here we are, So the World Series will be decided very shortly, and I've been watching some of the stuff that's been going on with the NBA and trades, and if anybody's going to be opting out or anything. And I had mentioned in a previous podcast that Anthony Davis is going to stay with the Lakers. LeBron is obviously going to stay with the Lakers. He'll probably end up retiring there at this point. And they'll probably do a two-peat or repeat. Who knows? Who knows how that's going to end up playing out? But I do know that the season warm-ups and everything are going to be starting real soon. So let's jump over here to what's going on with the NFL, and it's interesting to see because Russell Wilson is performing at a level that I think rivals any history of QBs right now. He's become a true leader as far as what has happened, and obviously KC is. Their main competition that's going to be something that rivals as far as like real powerhouse teams go. But at the same time, he's more of a veteran now than ever before. And I'm talking about Russell Wilson. And so, this year's going to shape up. There's going to be if you look at the East Coast teams right now, so many of them are so bad, except for obviously Brady and Tampa Bay. They're doing pretty well. But I mean, I think the record right now is either 3-2 for top spot in the rankings. That's the record right now. 3-2. It'll be 3-3 or 3-4 or however. Whatever, if there were some games that were postponed, like the Titans got postponed, and so they had a different record going into last week. But it's been interesting to watch. So. Some of the games that the Titans obviously are 5-0 right now, Pittsburgh 5-0 right now, and the teams like Dallas, right? The America's team struggling after the injury that happened, Dak going down, and we'll see if they can end up making something work out of this, but the games that I'm really looking forward to, like this Sunday, is the Pittsburgh-Tennessee game. The early game, it is, so I don't know if you guys are into the sports at all or if you just are on the other side of the action or if you're paying attention at all, but this Pittsburgh-Tennessee game is going to be really good to watch. It's going to be fun to watch at least. And I'm also looking forward to the game that's coming up. I want to see the Houston Texans win. I honestly, and I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Green Bay, who just lost, right? Maybe, but it's sad to see a team that actually has some potential be 1-5 right now, and it's just some bad beats, and also to Atlanta. Atlanta's 1-5, and it's going to be a long season for Dallas fans, Houston fans, and Atlanta fans. The Giants fans are used to this. Right, they're 1-5 as well. So basically, what I'm saying throughout this is that there are really good teams, and there's really bad teams. And hopefully it ends up balancing out after this week, because these last few weeks have been a little lopsided as far as the way that the games have gone. So anyway, moving on, we're going to talk about the presidential election because it is right around the corner, and all the campaigning and everything else has been going on. I have a ton of players, actually wagering on both sides. It just depends on what I guess their affiliation is, and if they are somebody who honestly thinks that socialism or the idea behind a higher tax plan is a good thing. I mean, obviously, judging from the perspective that I'm in, I don't think any tax is ever going to be a good thing. Maybe at the level of education and roads and so forth. But again, as this goes forward, someone will win, right? And someone will be our new president for 4 years. Granted, they don't stroke out or have something crazy happen. So it's kind of that hype time right now as far as the media goes, and some of that focus has been taken off of the sports and the leagues and the COVID and everything, which Fauci has been kind of silent on a lot of the things. The college football has been Alabama. Okay, so I'll just switch gears real quick just because that reminded me. Alabama right now has 2 players that are definitely going to be going pro in the near future. They are crazy good. Their quarterback and their running back. They're both playing an incredible set of games with each other, and they're gelling, and it's just working out. So as far as the actual COVID testing and delays and other things that were going on, the United States is very resilient in this fact, and all the sports that have been happening, and yeah, there's been some delays, or there's been some postponements, or there's been some cancellations as far as whatever side of the states you're on. I mean, in California and on the West Coast, the majority of those still aren't playing or doing anything. One thing that it will become apparent very shortly here is the fact that a lot of college basketball isn't going to be played, which is unfortunate if you really think about that, because college basketball is one of the greatest things to watch overall. It gets really exciting, and I don't know how the March Madness is even going to work out if it does, right? Like, because it got canceled last year halfway at the very end of it, and so there's a lot of pro NBA guys, or that could have been pro NBA guys right now, that are sitting there and never got looked at, or it's going to be an interesting development to see how this ends up playing out for this year. So again, enough about the sports. I wanted to talk about what's been going on with the limits and stuff. I'm so glad that the MLB is actually almost over. I have 2 or 3 guys that are just very sharp right now on the MLB, and I'm reluctant to cut them because I'm hoping that they'll keep playing the bigger money lines, even though it's fairly even balanced right now against the Dodgers and the Rays. But run lines, money lines, taking them in parlays and in different parts when they find the game that they want to play. They're going both sides of it, depending upon the day. And so again, I can't wait for this to just be done for this year. The NFL has been good to me for the majority of those parts, as long as people are playing it on the spreads. Like the Colts game, obviously, was they had them favored at minus, I think it was 11.5 against them, and it was a lot closer. It was the Cincinnati Bengal game, Colts, over the weekend, that I had a lot of action on. And some people had the money line on that game. Some people had the whatever. So the money line guys won. It was a high cost, so they didn't really win that much against me. But at the same time, they definitely were taking the spreads as well and lost. So it's a balancing act along those lines. And usually the odds makers are pretty good on what is going to be coming out. That game was a little off. I think minus 11.5 was high. And as far as the college football, it's kind of predictable, right? So the wagers that have been coming in on that are, it just, you take the favorites right now, just the favorites, and that's just how you're gonna have to roll with it if you're a player. And for a guy on my side of it, I'm just keeping the limits as low as I can to try and weather that storm through that process. Keep the parlay limits down from 5 teams to 4 teams. so that they can't get too big of a payout on something like that. Keep the max payout if you want, lower it to a reasonable amount, and a kind of a rule of thumb with that is that, worst case scenario, you look at like the exposure reports or any of the other reports that are available on the PayPerHead site and see what you're capable of taking on a worst case scenario and balancing that out as it goes. If everybody wins on one day, are you going to be able to handle that? Is it going to just completely demolish you, or are you keeping it reasonable? And right now, I'm staying reasonable, and it's the digital casino and premium casino that I've got wind of that's supposed to be released actually coming up here pretty soon. The new live dealer is working out well. I have guys still playing on that, even though the sports are back, so it's worked out well. So the key is having action in all different areas and the amount of volume on the site at constant rates. And as I've gotten questions from people about what can I get a higher casino limit? Can I get a higher this? Can I, what how come I'm limited at 4 teams on the parlays? And I just got to explain to them, like, this is my book, and we're trying to make this so that you'll have somewhere to come back that's reputable. So you could try to bury me, but at the same time, do you want someone who you're gonna have to go find a new place to play? Like I had a guy that just recently came over to me from a post up. He was not with somebody else. He was not with the local agent, and he was at a post up, and it was a player that came over, and he's like, at least now I can communicate with the person that I'm taking, action with, and that's actually where we're always going to have the edge in this market. The post-ups, they do what they can. They have customer service. You can call them, you can talk to the people and all that kind of stuff like that, but they have major limitations as far as what they're capable of doing. They have, weekly like payout limits and whatever else, so they're going to run into that. And on top of that, the processing itself is very slow offshore. If anyone's ever dealt with that, it's always slow. And that just has to do with the fact that most of those guys want to skate on reporting and yada yada, so it's what you got to do. And for us, it's a lot easier. So do I get the value right now out of having the site and all my players? Absolutely. I mean, hands down. In the last with some of the things that have been coming out and the way that the reporting has been working for me, and I just log in and look, and I see all the players that are winning and losing, and in the top charts that I have set up. It's been, this year by itself has been really profitable for me, even though we had the whole COVID malarkey. And some of the guys didn't fare so well, actually. Some of the guys didn't manage correctly. Some of the guys didn't do things that they should have done, like try to expand their player base into places, such as virtual sports or digital casino or the live dealer, and ended up tanking. So as far as advice goes, if I can give any of that, I am sure that everybody out there has their own opinion on this, but expanding in the horizon of where we got to go as far as availability is the main key, right? And so this right now, I feel like this site has been the best way to do that. So if you do like what you hear, subscribe, follow. We'll be back next week. I'm going to try and see if I can get somebody to come on the show, maybe. We'll talk about what they're dealing with, if it's kind of the same story for them, or maybe they have some different experience. And we'll see you around. Hope the odds are in your favor, and have a great week. Thanks for tuning into the Reds podcast, brought to you by PayPerHead.com. For all relative promos going on right now, please check them out at PayPerHead.com. Also, opinions expressed on this show are not that of PayPerHead.com. And if you do like what you hear, for all the agent news coming up, please like, subscribe, and follow. We will see you next week.